I've put a nice chunk of time into Stumble Guys. Ever since Alpharad started making content on it, I've been playing this game, and it's a pretty decent, if relatively unpolished, take on Fall Guys. For the holiday season, they've been having some special events, and they've mostly been standard fare, but one has really stuck out to me. Stumble Up Easy. It's essentially getting over it with Bennett Foddy or Only Up, but in Stumble Guys. Just make your way up an incredibly massive and complicated obstacle course. Sounds simple on paper, but in practice, this is the worst level in the game. I tried to clear this godforsaken garbage on my own time, but got stuck on this section and called it quits there. I tried again and made it back, but while mashing A, I fat-fingered the B button and accidentally quit out. Yeah, this level is so long there's an option to quit out at will and still get some tiny rewards. Third time's the charm, however, so I decided I would see just how long it would take me to beat this level, one way or another. As I said, I've attempted this level twice before, so these early sections weren't too much of an issue. I chose to hang back a bit at this rotating spike for safety's sake and made it to the first checkpoint in less than a minute. This second section went a little worse thanks to some jerk players, but hey, that's the peril of playing any online game, and I took the next checkpoint after another run through. The third section with the fans was pretty simple, if a bit slow, and before I knew it, I was on the fourth section, failing a basic skip that I had done successfully on both of my previous attempts. See, I was trying to land on the rim of this fan in such a way that the blades wouldn't push me off and I could jump to the grass. Eventually I managed to get it and made my way to the fifth checkpoint with no more issues. This rotating log isn't too complicated to get through despite the gaps and walls. Unfortunately, my jump decided not to go all the way up partway through, which forced me to start the section over again. After making my way through, I narrowly got onto this pirate ship before making my way across this plank tightrope section to the sixth checkpoint. These Mario-ass rotating blocks may seem intimidating to get through, but Stumble Guys doesn't exactly have the best physics, so more often than not you can just platform across them normally. The seventh checkpoint is where it really starts getting tough, as you have to make your way across these fish skeletons with trampolines on them. You have to be incredibly precise to make it onto these things without falling, and unlike the rotating blocks, the bad physics are actually detrimental here, as they can make you slip off the top of a fish and take a fall. Eventually, with a bit of patience and even luck, I was able to make it to the eighth section, where you have to walk across these thin poles to the end. Thankfully, I knew the best path to take from my past attempts, and it almost seems like you magnetized them a bit, so I was able to make it through with just a couple slip-ups. I'm not entirely sure how you're intended to do this ninth section, with these platforms becoming increasingly unforgiving slopes, but I've been able to cheese it by spamming the dive over and over, so I guess that works. This 10th section is the part that I had never been able to beat, and is a good chunk of why I consider this the worst Stumble Guys level. There are small platforms, precise jumps, and those physics problems that I've mentioned really show their head here. If you're impatient like me, having to watch yourself fall for about 14 seconds every time you slip or miss a jump is fucking painful, and a good reason why new death zones should be added for each player as they progress. As I was falling to my death early on, I noticed there was only one other person still playing this garbage, and not too long after they had quit out, so now I was the only person actually putting myself through this. So I had technically won, but I still hadn't beaten the level, and that's exactly what I had set out to do. This section really did take a toll on my sanity. From the early jumps that just wouldn't reach, to this section where you need to be walking at just the right angle or you'll slip off, to this final section where you need to go up this wall just right to not be knocked off by the spikes, there's a surprising amount of bullshit packed into this one section. I was raging up a storm because this part is designed so precisely, and the game engine and physics just aren't equipped for this kind of precision platforming. It took me about 20 minutes before I finally managed to make my way to the next checkpoint. And there was still more after this. Thankfully, this section is a pretty simple one, with trampolines on floating platforms. It sure would be easier if you could angle the camera upwards to see where you're supposed to go, but this game doesn't allow that. Thanks, devs. Believe it or not, this is the final section, and while it might not seem that bad, and it's much less infuriating than that platforming section, it took the longest amount of time for me to finish. Basically, you have to use these spinning hammers to propel yourself upward to get up these platforms along this wall. However, most of the time the hammers either knock you the wrong way or barely give you any momentum, and thus you either have to try again and pray, or fall for about 20 seconds before respawning. Again, the physics just aren't good enough to justify this kind of level design. Occasionally, the bad physics kinda work in your favor by knocking you up several times higher than they should, but it's still an utter crapshoot getting to that final ledge, because you need that kind of luck multiple times. I did start out kind of angry at this section, but after spending so long on the bottom with no meaningful progress being made, anger gives way to boredom, and I was struggling to even stay invested. I ended up watching/listening to a YouTube video I had started earlier just to retain my sanity. And if you're watching, Keizaron, thank you so much for that. I had a few minutes where it seemed like I would majestically pull off the win, but no, the hammers suck and I ended up falling to the bottom. I literally doubled my playtime on this level, most of which was spent falling off the level or bouncing with barely any momentum, until a series of fateful bounces got me to the top. For some reason they stuck a spinning fan thing on here that's so short that you can just run on this platform's edge to avoid it, and into this tractor beam that pulls you into the goal. And that's how I beat Stumble Up easy, in the funny number amount of minutes. Now, I didn't beat this level for some super reward that you get. I couldn't care less about this hipster-ass skin. I just did it to see if I could and how long it would take. Is this the world record for this level? Probably not, but it's the fastest I'm ever gonna get, because I'm never gonna play this god-awful level again. Also, I know I said that this is the worst level in the game earlier, but the description of the level threatens that a version exists without the checkpoints, and, there's not enough money in the world to make me play that shit. Thanks for watching the video, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more Stumble Guys videos, or anything else you want me to do. Special thanks to Alpharad, whose videos are how I learned about this game, and Keizaron, whose videos helped me retain my sanity during that last section. See you in the next video. Bye.